Allora, buongiorno a tutti.
So good morning to you all. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We accepted at Fondazione Campagna Amica the invitation by MEDA to organize this meeting this morning in order to tackle another very important topic, that is prevention of illnesses. That means living with a good well-being thanks to a healthy diet. Through the years, at global level, a production and distribution system has been developed, production of food has been developed, that is called the mainstream system, the most common system, the one that really is available for all of us on our table. And because of that, we have very highly processed and industrial food on our tables. So food can be moved from one side to the other of the world, while in many countries around the world it's impossible to buy food directly from farmers, because farmers cannot really sell directly what they produce. Today, during this event, today is the World Day Against Food Waste. Well, in our history of humanity, we have never produced as much food as we are producing today. But on the other hand, according to United Nations, 1 billion people around the world really don't have proper access to food, and when they are able to eat, they eat mainly super processed or highly processed food containing more than 30 or 40 ingredients inside of these food. And together with that, 1 billion people that do not have proper access to food, according to the United Nations, apart from that, we waste 1 billion tons of food every year. That means 1 ton of food wasted for every single man or woman that is unable to eat properly. On the other hand, we've seen an increase of metabolic diseases, a high increase, exponential increase of metabolic diseases. So on one side, no proper access to food, and on the other side, people eating not properly or in an unhealthy way, and these, of course, has repercussions on our health. We need really to stop these processes, to revert these processes, in order to achieve a more balanced situation inside the food sector, and on the other hand, we can live better. Most of the time, the consequences of an unhealthy diet are more patent and evident during childhood. We've seen various diseases that can be developed during childhood. Those of us that are parents, so we know that one of the first things that we do is going to the optician with our children, because they start quite at an early age to have sight problems, but then other difficulties that can be developed since childhood. We wanted to invite here doctors, experts that really are working on these topics, and Fondazione Campagna Amica is working and cooperating with them, or has been cooperating with them, because we think that a healthy diet is really the base of a healthy lifestyle. So we really hope we can continue to cooperate and work with these experts that are here today with us in order in the future to be able to publish some studies, also with the support of Fondazione Campagna Amica. Studies that can really widespread the importance of a healthy lifestyle, starting from a healthy diet, following seasonality, the seasons, and very much linked to the consumption of local food in order to live better. So I'm going to introduce to you our guest, Professor Mazzacane, Vice President of the Commission of Defense, Stefano Magno, surgeon from the Gemelli Hospital of Rome, and then the Common Italian Women's and Children Health and Public Health Science, and Professor Alberto Vitali, head of General Pediatrics Units of the Bambin Gesù Pediatric Hospital in Rome. So I'll start with the topic of this event, that is the health of eyes. So I'll ask to Professor Mazzacane. Can you just explain how a healthy diet can help us? How can a healthy diet help us to increase the health of our eyes? Good morning to you all. Thank you for your invitation. Can we have a pointer?
Grazie. Buongiorno a tutti, grazie ancora.
So good morning. Thank you for the invitation. It's such a pleasure to be here. So from this sentence, you can realize that Hippocrates in the past found a connection between food and medicine, and that means that in order to be healthy and psychophysical well-being, the diet really has a fundamental role, or plays a fundamental role for the whole body and the eye. So 85% of the action of our everyday life are possible thanks to our sight. Well, in any phase of our life, we need to grant the eye the right nourishment in the right quantities and proportion. We need to follow a very balanced and personalized diet in order to live longer with the right psychophysical well-being, preventing and just limiting various eye diseases. The diet is very important for our sight, because in the modern era with the digital devices, so we ask the eyes to work a lot. Since childhood, we know the importance of the Mediterranean diet and also the guidelines proposed by the ENRAN will be added value of the social interaction in the food pyramid. We give importance to cereals, fruit and vegetables and olive oil, and I underline, because of my origin, I was born in Puglia, so the olive oil is very important. It has lots of properties, wonderful properties. So we used it in the past. We use butter in the past more. Of course, we have white meat and fish, paying attention to biodiversity, seasonality, the production, or the local production. So we live in a wonderful nation that is made of different regions, and every single region has a different kind of diet with different plates and recipes. And it's really something that we can really boost or boss around. So our cuisine is very famous all around the world. Then the microbiota is very important. And There are components, there are drivers for their composition, and then we have researchers underline that food can really regulate mechanism for our mood, attention, memory, aggressiveness, and the transmission of impulse. So all these are solutions that are helping us to live better.
Qui vedete uno schema con
So here we have a table with the most important food components, most important for sight. I'm not going to read them all, but I want to underline that some food belonged to the, let's say, poor recipes of our grandmothers, and because of the new Italian chefs, they are very fashionable today. Well, here we have our food pyramid. As you can see, sweets are at the very top of the pyramid. They're not really fundamental. Here we have fruits and vegetables and bread and rice at the base. And then, of course, the importance of physical activity is very important, and the pleasure to eat together is very important. And then we need to pay attention to the seasonality of food and also the, let's say, the origin of the product. What about the diseases of our eyes? So we have the dry eye because of different causes. It's really something quite annoying due to, aging in women, also because of the hormones and our physiology, and then also the environment can be a factor. The heating inside our houses and the air conditioning, of course, is not ideal for our eyes, so the environment is very important. The use of digital devices, prolonged use, so it's important to have breaks when we work with our tablet or computer. And then a deficit of vitamin A and other vitamins, and then the excess use of contact lenses. As you can see, we can eat vitamin A, zinc and folate, vitamin B6 and C and omega-3, and a good hydration. It's important to drink properly. Then we have diabetic retinopathy. It's a general condition that unfortunately is more and more present in the industrialized countries and all over the world, to be honest. Normally, during the working age, in some cases, you can have a perfect sight and having retinopathy, and you don't even know you have diabetes. So prevention is very important. And then we have macular edema, that is a serious consequence. Of course, we need the proper physical activity, the right drugs, because when you need to control the metabolism, the oculist cannot really do wonders on his own. So the diet of this kind of patient, we need to reduce the assumption of simple sugars, increase fibers, proteins, use vegetable fats, and of course mineral salts and vitamins. Then we have the vitreous degeneration, so these sort of very annoying flies that we see in some cases, as you can see, because of aging or short-sightedness, of eye trauma. We need good hydration and vitamin C, at least to reduce the let's say, less serious problems. And then we have macular degeneration linked to the age, because we are growing older and older, and because of that, we need to find some help. So the aging, as I said, an unbalanced diet with a lot of fat and not enough fish, and obesity or lack of physical activity, or just too much solar light. Because of that, we know that now, according to various studies, there are substances that we have in fruit and vegetables and vegetable oils, all these ingredients can really play a fundamental role in order to help this kind of disease. For cataract and glaucoma, we've had a lot of researches, but unfortunately we haven't found a link, a proper link with the diet. But in science, you never know. And then observations. Well, COVID really changed our food habits. We love now to prepare food all together, to eat all together, to stay together, eat with our family members and friends, because of course after the lockdown we were more than happy to meet, to eat together. We give more time to cooking, rediscovering the recipes of traditional cuisine and recipes of our grandmothers, and it's considered a hobby, a nice hobby. We are rediscovering raw materials and the origin of food. So local markets are just called diretti. Local markets are more and more famous, and they're very, very useful because you can just have a walk around and find something very nice and healthy with good prices. And then growing vegetables. During the COVID and the lockdown, we were looking for houses with gardens, and in order to have a small orchard, or maybe having just herbs on a balcony. By 2020, we are foreseeing an increase of the world population by up to 9 billion. And because of that, we need to use food properly, as we said before, without wasting food, eating what we need and no more. So we'll need to have a food production and consumptions that are sustainable, and diet really need to be accessible, and food need to be accessible. In order to grant the well-being of future generation, we need to have less water impact, to use less soil, and of course to decrease the greenhouse gases emission. Thank you for your attention.
Okay. Professor Villani.
Professor, we have a long-standing cooperation with you. Making children eat well, I believe it's the first duty that each child, each parent has to prevent certain diseases that can cause problems in the lives of our children, but to also let them use the full potential they have in their growth, which are the indications from such an important institute as Bambin Gesù.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a pediatrician. I will speak about children and the importance of nutrition, but I should give you some data. Just like my colleague said, the average life has gotten longer. Italy is one of those countries where you have a longer life expectation, 85 for women, 80 for men. We should also consider the years of well-being. It's 60 years. It means that women live 25 years in a non-well-being state. From my age, 65 years of age, you take on average 6 or 7 tablets a day. There's a longer life expectancy. It's not compared with actual well-being. Another element that should make us feel proud but also reflect, I believe that you heard about blue areas. That is to say, areas in the world where you have people over 100 years of age. One of such areas is in Sardinia, and there was also, up until some days ago, years ago in Lucania, and the others are in Japan, Greece, Costa Rica, where they follow a Mediterranean diet, places where they have complete sober food, local vegetables and fruits with the use of meats. A study by Professor Bernabe, Catholic University, unlike what each one of us thinks that the elderly must eat an adequate quantity of proteins not to have muscle dysfunctions, and fish. So the Mediterranean diet. And what do pediatricians have to do with all of this? Pediatricians 150 years ago took care of very small children. Then they started speaking about pediatric age up until 13 years of age. Then we became the physicians of evolutionary age. Actually, pediatrics fought to have the importance of epigenetics. What does it mean? I apologize with non-experts. What is it about? Up until some years ago, we thought that whatever happened was contained in our genetic heritage. There was a period when they thought that the environment was highly impacting for the state of health. Epigenetics put these two things together, and the main factor, however, that makes the difference is diet, not just for your well-being, the course of life, and with food you can even change genetic predisposition, but my colleague will speak about it. In the case of tumor diseases, it's possible to revert the trend. There's a mechanism thanks to epigenetics and style of life. Genes can be switched on and off thanks to food, and not just for individual people. It can be transmitted to 4 generations. We are the expression of our great grandparents, and you become responsible for future generations. And this is thanks to diet. Actually, just like you teach children to walk, speak, brush their teeth, and a smart use of sight without exposing the eyes too much to screens, well, it's also fundamental to teach children eat in the right way, because children are just like sponges. They learn easily if you teach them something. When they say, my child doesn't eat fruits and vegetables, it's because nobody taught them. If instead you do every possible effort, and actually it seems difficult, it is not so. If you implement the right methods whereby children can eat such things, and apart from the advantages in terms of health, and so the objective, and it has been known for years, the objective is not health, is not having a disease, but it's psycho-physical well-being. Here we have a focus on sight, vision, but eating well means not having to take 6 or 7 tablets from 65 years age upwards, and it means getting to a condition of well-being, and this also represents a fundamental element, even if politicians do not devote enough attention to it, and limiting chronic diseases. 30 years ago, nobody would ever thought we would speak about chronic diseases, and instead we have to manage chronic diseases. Is it possible that a child has metabolic syndrome or fatty liver? Unfortunately so, and this is exclusively due to diet that is not right. And what does it mean? We speak so much about sustainability, and then I will stop of the national health system. And if you get to adult age without diabetes, fatty liver, and so on and so forth, probably everything will be more sustainable. Otherwise, as it happens, not just in terms of food, that we waste so much food, but also in the case of health, we'll have to make an effort to avoid diseases. In Italy, you spend more money to repair damage instead of prevention of damage. So a calculation was made from 1/13 to 1/15 to avoid damage caused by smoking. You spend much more money than you would spend to launch anti-smoking campaigns in schools. Diet is more than fundamental, not just for health, but also for the overall well-being. And neuropsychiatric disorders in developmental age, also diet plays a role. And meal was a moment when you met your relatives and you spoke pleasantly. If you don't do it, you don't have this moment of exchange and dialogue. Food also establishes relationships. Thank you so much.
Grazie, Professor Villani.
Thank you so much, Professor Villani. Professor Magno, a surgeon. For years, you've been fighting against breast tumor and tumors in general, but also to prevent this type of disease. We, as Fondazione Campagna Amica, we've been a partner and would like to support a great event that you organize every year. And I invite everybody to participate in this event. We know that poor diet fosters, unfortunately, the development of certain diseases. But healthy food can really help to prevent such problems. What's your point of view? Thank you so much. Good morning.
Da oncologo è un
The theme as a tumor surgeon is also underestimated by experts, and in our wards or tumor units, we explain healthy people that we visit or patients that unfortunately have a tumor, but also sometimes colleagues. We explain that diet should be part of the standard of care in the case of tumors for three reasons. First of all, as it was stated, diet is connected to pathogenesis of tumors. Most tumors are breast tumor, but also endometrium, colorectal tumors, big killers. And right diet plays a fundamental role. Genetic expression, 5-10% of cases of breast tumors, and diet at least 30%. Together with the lifestyle and its big values, and just like was said, we can prevent diseases through effective and continuous educational campaign, and we might prevent 30% of malignant tumors, and that's why we should speak about diet, not just in a context like this, but also in our care centers. Then there's another reason that is less known, but it is as important. A woman that receives a tumor diagnosis, life-saving treatments, debilitating treatments, just like chemotherapy, but also other types of treatments, that woman also needs food support apart from psychological support and physical exercise. If the woman eats well during treatment, she has less side effects, for example, nausea, vomiting, and not systematically speaking about diet during treatment exposes the woman to a higher risk. It reduces adherence to therapeutic protocols, and it will reduce the efficacy of our intervention. We have to postpone a treatment, for example, reduce dosage. There are so many aspects connected to compliance, going through healthy food. And then there's one last reason. We already know that a woman that starts eating better, she has less likelihood of getting ill with the same disease or second tumors. So once again, we improve the outcome, the prognosis of that woman. So it's a winning strategy at all levels. Not doing it is ethically very severe. In 2023, we know that physical exercise and the diet should be part of the standard of care, and each woman, each man that receives a tumor diagnosis that has life-saving treatments, every patient should also have healthy behaviors. Which are such healthy behaviors?
Stanno confermando in maniera
All international trials confirm that food pattern, not the individual ingredient, but the Mediterranean diet is a winning model. And so basically it's a vegetable, but not exclusively vegetable diet with high content of fibers and poor in industrially processed food. And high percentage of fibers nourishes our microbiota, and our microbiota is a fundamental player in the team of our health. And then you have seasonality, 0 kilometer, and all themes that are very dear to us as oncologists, but also Fondazione Campagna Amica. And it's one of the reasons why this cooperation cannot but have a brightening future. Thank you so much.
Grazie, Professore.
Thank you, Professor. I have 2 questions, and then we'll have the last possibility for you to speak before closing this meeting. So the first question is very much linked to the diseases of the food system, linked to the food system. In Italy, we discovered that we have a high number of young people, young women mainly, that are suffering for bulimia, anorexia. How can we help these young women? How do you perceive this issue? How can we react toward this issue, this disease? And the second question is the following. We have seen in the last 30 years, we have seen a huge increase of the food, highly processed food. With the parallel increase of metabolic diseases, today the same people that have invested in this highly processed food production are proposing a new solution, not highly processed food, but laboratory produced food is going to be considered healthy. Food that is growing with or is produced with high percentages of hormones in order for the cells to grow. So what about your point of view for this switch from natural food to laboratory produced food, not natural food, let's say? And what about the impact that this can have on the health, or our health in general? So I'll start from Professor Mazzagane, then Professor Vigliani and Magni. Thank you. Well, for sure, thanks to COVID as well, we've had the possibility to reconsider how to organize our life, and we need health training and also a training for our diet, our food, starting from childhood, very small children, even starting from pregnant women. Well, a woman, when is facing pregnancy, before giving birth, we've paid very little attention to the pediatric years, because in the last years we've paid attention to elderly people. We are having lots of problems with chronic diseases, and I mean it's easier to do cataract, and it's much more difficult to treat macular degeneration linked to old age. But now we have chronic diseases that were acute diseases and fatally diseases in the past, like infectious diseases like tuberculosis. And because of that, I mean, we have bettered our researches. We need to invest on health training. When I was a teenager, we had a doctor at school, and he was doing something, not much, but something. This person that was working in the school and working hand in hand with the local pediatrician and our general practicer, we did right interaction with the hospital. So we needed really to manage all these diseases locally. Nowadays, the situation is very confused, and we need to plan for the future. In the planning of all this, we need to take into consideration food training, because studies have shown that this training can really be very positive for our psychophysical well-being. What about the second question? Well, synthetic food. Well, I was born in the south of Italy, so I'm very much used to good cuisine and very natural tastes. Well, of course, it's enough to eat with your eyes, and I mean the smell of something. It's very important to us. So I don't know how the synthetic food is, but I'm not going to be a follower, because I mean eating together, the psychophysical well-being, this feeling of staying together, eating together, when we are eating something nice with the right colors. I mean, imagine fruits, or a very nice and tasty plate of soup. I mean, it's really the best. And if you're eating with your loved ones, of course, it's something that cannot be compared to lab food. After COVID and lockdown, we were used to plan our life second by second, but then we learned to live day by day. And because of that, now we have a different life, a slower life, and we realize every morning that we are still alive when we wake up, and we know and we realize that it's so nice to smell and to taste all the tastes and recipes that our grandmothers cooked. Well, in the past, women were working in the kitchen. Now women, they need to work inside and outside their homes. And I conclude saying that we've seen an increase of female doctors in Italy. In Milan, 49% of students of medical school are women. So we need to help these colleagues. They're very, very well prepared, sensitive. We need to help them to have a proper personal and professional life in order to be able to have children, and as Professor Villani said, to teach to their children to eat properly.
In realtà sono due argomenti che richiederebbero da soli molto tempo, quindi disturbi del comportamento alimentare, c'è stata la cosiddetta...
So two very long topics. So first of all, we have socio-environmental topics for bulimia and anorexia. We've seen a decrease of number of births, less than 400,000 new babies. And I mean, this is a trend. This is going to be a trend in the future. And we have different factors. And I mean, loneliness is really one of these factors. Most of the time, we have just one child. And these behaviors are so widespread because we have these factors, so loneliness and anger towards society. Otherwise, nothing can really justify these high increase of diseases. Well, in the pediatric hospital, Bambino Gesù Pediatric Hospital, we've seen, and all around Italy, an increase by 300% of the cases. We are following more than 400 patients, normally, mainly young girls, 90%. And what happened is that these patients are younger and younger. In the past, it was diseases for teenagers, while now we have cases of patients that are very, very young, more anorexic patients than bulimic patients. Talking about synthetic food, as the professor said before, the problem is not just processing all protein or all something food. The value of food is because of comes from the context. I mean, we need to have an interaction of old food and old ingredients, and it's something unique. We cannot really think that we will have synthetic meat or synthetic food. We're not going to have a type of food with the right characteristics of the same characteristic of a natural food. It's really it's not really a win-win situation. I really don't know whose interests are these, but I mean, it's really we really need to contrast this kind of trend. So we talk about the microbiota before. I mean, it's impossible to foresee how this lab food can really interact with the microbiota. All these artificial food, I mean, it's not really something that we should, I mean, we pay too much attention to this lab food, while we should pay more attention to just natural food. Well, I confess that I'm not an expert for a teenager, but what I can say is the following. It's true that tumors are increasing, the number of tumors is increasing, but on the other side, we've seen also that more and more patients are surviving after a tumor. So, for example, for breast cancer. So these are reassuring figures. So we can really cure, or we can have a chronic situation, for our patients. So for our patients, from this point of view, we will work even better, and we will be better and better to save their life. But we are not as good in preserving the taste for life, because many women, they are cured biologically, they're cured from cancer. We can see a remission in the long term, but on the other side, they feel they are not cured. They are linked to this trauma of the illness. They cannot really metabolize the illness, and they lose this taste for life. Even though they can live long, quite a long, they can live longer. So we need to transmit this taste for food, for a diet that's not just healthy, but also really good, pleasant, gratifying. And all this is very important in order to give back to these women this taste for staying, eating together and eat something nice, something tasteful. Well, thinking about this lab food, as Mr. Berino said, this grandmother rule, when you are at the supermarket, before buying a product, just imagine you have your grandmother next to you. If your grandmother can recognize a product, you can buy it, otherwise just leave it there. It's really a rule of thumb, but it's very useful. So seasonality, the origin of food are very important for us to recognize healthy food. So as an oncologist or as a doctor, of course, for me it's very important to promote this kind of trend. Thank you, Professor. One last question for all of you. We've talked about Mediterranean diet. We'll talk about the extraordinary, well, Professor Mazzagatti showed to us the diet pyramid, the Mediterranean diet pyramid. So you belong to 3 different medicine sectors. In case you need to choose a product, considering the extraordinary biodiversity of Italy, this very long country from Africa to Central Europe, if you should indicate, point out a superfood from the health point of view, what would you suggest according to your sector, and why, of course? Of course, we have lots of products, fruits. Every single region of Italy produces different fruits. We have oranges and lemons and apples. We have olive oil, wine that was attacked. But in reality, with the right quantity and the right proportions, wine can be very beneficial. And also we have fish, Mediterranean fish, that was abandoned in the past, white meat. Well, it's not that we have just one single product. Once again, olive oil, to season our recipes. I just want to underline once again the importance of just seeing something that is pleasant to the chromatic sense and eating with our eyes.
Colorazione. Non c'è un prodotto.
All these products, they have a specific wonderful color. I don't really think there is a superfood. We need a very well-balanced diet and eat something of everything in the right proportions, with a little bit of physical exercise, eating together, and this willingness to stay together, to enjoy together our meals. Eating is not just taking a pill like astronauts in the space. They need to eat something in pills because of where they were. We need to just live an active life. And as we said, and the colleagues said rightly, it's important really to rediscover conviviality, to stay together, we eat together with our family members, and parents, they need to teach to their children to behave properly and then to eat properly. And maybe we can really just curb a little bit or limit a little bit all the diseases that we talked about before, and we can help elderly people to feel less lonely. Well, superfood? No superfood. But once again, the Mediterranean diet is very important. And then, I mean, we have abandoned the Mediterranean diet in the last 20 years, and we have seen an increase of diseases because of, I don't know, we have all these new trends in fashion and new superfoods, but in reality, we should go back with a very serious approach to the Mediterranean diet. That is really the superfood. We need to recover and to go back to our Mediterranean diet that has been working properly for centuries. We don't need to research anymore. We know that it's really the best way to eat, following the Mediterranean diet. Well, I'm going to fall into the trap, and I'm going to point out one single food. Say olive oil. Olive oil is really the healthier fat. Is not, I mean, it's a superfood, it's a food, it's also a drug in a certain sense. It's really the strongest product that we have in our country. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating to this meeting. Fondazione Campagna Amica is going to work on this fundamental asset. So this link between a healthy lifestyle and diet and healthy diet. Our cooperation is going to continue. Our cooperation with the doctors that you are seeing here on the stage is going to continue in the future. Follow us. Let's try to change all together our way of eating. I mean, eating all together, it's important. Starting from when and where we buy food. Buying seasonal food, local food is good for you and it's good for our planet. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.